Hey, we're here with Rhett Miller from the old 97's. Thanks so much for taking the time, man. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
We're just discussing the Grand Theater Volume 1's been out since October.
Yeah.
It feels like longer because I've been listening to it. It feels like, well, if it came out in October, I probably had it a little earlier, so it's been out for a while. When's Volume 2 coming out?
July 5.
Wow.
In the U.S. and hopefully all of North America. So.
It's been a fairly prolific career to this point. I mean, you've put out 8 records. I think I counted 6 EPs, all since '94. Like, that's crazy.
4 solo records.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. This will be studio record 13 when I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy, man. I don't know. I just I can't stop. And the nice thing is, this is the upside to not having had a huge hit. Like I feel like I'm still hungry. I feel like it goes for my whole band. Like we always have something to prove.
Yeah.
You know, we've had enough success to where we get to keep doing this, which is, to me, the main goal.
Right.
And the nice thing is that we keep getting to play to bigger audiences. Like it's inching up again. It's weird.
Is that what the challenge is? Is the challenge to have a hit, or is the challenge to prolong a career that you're enjoying?
Well, we had a big dog and pony time in '97 when a bunch of major labels were trying to sign us and
Right.
flying us around, and our motto during that time was, we want a career.
Right.
You know, and I know that doesn't always jive with the major label system, especially the old one, the now defunct major label system.
Yeah.
But we were able to carve that out, strangely, even at Elektra for those 3 band records and 1 solo record.
Yeah.
You know, that was a time when we should not necessarily have been getting to keep making records, because we were only selling 100,000 of each one, but we did. We got to, and we got all that money poured into us. And now that system is dead, I feel comfortable saying that I'm glad it's dead, because it was a flawed system. But you know, that said, I feel grateful for having been the beneficiary of a lot of hundreds of thousands of dollars of marketing.
Do you think bands like yours, or Ryan and Ryan Adams, or even the Jayhawks before you guys, do you think that you're benefiting now from the new system, whatever it is, that with the internet and with me being able to tell my friends what I'm listening to, and I can list all the things that influence me, my musical DNA? Do you think that that's helping shape your career now?
Well, we had this idea that quality would prevail. You know,
Right.
like if we really tried to be as good as we can be and not play to any, of the fads that come through, that in the end that would be appreciated. And now with the filters being taken away from the fat cats and given to the people, that's like the ultimate in quality prevailing. Now you have to be good, because everybody can tell if you're not. You know.
Right.
You know, it's not being crammed down the throat of the populace like it once was. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good thing for us. I miss record budgets being ridiculous, only because I got to see them and enjoy the catering that can buy.
Yeah.
But I don't miss anything else about that old system.
It's more honest now, right? I mean, you have to be good at your craft to get recognized with so much being fed to us 24/7.
Yeah, and people can see through a sham,
Right.
much more quickly than they ever could before.
Let's talk about the music, because for me, that's always, as much as the story's cool, for me, what's attracted me to you guys even back in the day was the music. And, to put you in a box and to describe you as an alt-country outfit, or you're making rock music, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
thank
at
you.
the end of the day, you're making rock music.
Yeah.
And is that really, like, what influences the music that you guys make? I think that's more important than necessarily putting you in a box. But what influences the music you make, or artists?
I mean, obviously, coming from Texas, for me, it was, when I was a kid, I rejected a lot that was country, because especially, growing up in the '80s in Texas, it was so bad, the country that was being foisted on the public. But I really was drawn to Buddy Holly, and so and not even as much maybe the lyrics, because I'm a big lyrics guy and I really love him, and his stuff was very simple, and I'm not going to argue that it wasn't great and classic, but it wasn't the lyrics that pulled me in, it was the energy,
Right.
It was that real, I mean, it's not back porch music, but it's that kind of thing. It's just stomping, and you can just feel it like it could be happening in a barn or on somebody's back porch. And so that's what drew Murray for sure, and me to a lesser extent, and Ken, our guitar player, into punk rock. Just there's a fervor, and it's like, how can you expect the people to get excited if you're not going to get excited? And there's so many of my contemporaries that I feel like require their audience to silently, observe as they create something, heavy and beautiful. Forget that, man.
Yeah.
I want to, stomp my foot and jump around and sweat like crazy, so the people in the audience can, feel some, abandon. They can like let themselves go a little bit.
It's interesting that you mentioned punk because when I was listening to this record and certainly the second track on the record, Every Night's Friday Night. I mean, if you don't stomp your feet, then you got something's not connected from your ears to your legs. So I mean, is that what it is? I mean, it's just good fun. Is that what the act's about? I mean, not the act, but what your music's about.
Sure, the band. Well, it's about that. It's about making something that's fun to go to a club to see, or fun to put the record on. But then, hopefully, my job is to make it where there's enough subtext or enough depth, lyrically, to where your fourth or fifth listen through, you're still kind of discovering new things, or you're not just being driven mad by the shallowness of it, which happens, I think.
Interesting that you mentioned that because the fifth time around, at least today, Champaign, Illinois, really got me.
Oh yeah.
And it's one of these things where I don't think we pay enough attention to the great songwriters of this generation, and you're certainly, as prolific as you are, one of those people.
Thank you.
Is that something that you spend a lot of time on? Do you really hone your craft specifically in writing? Is that something that you're constantly doing? How does that work out for you?
I mean, I live for that. I was talking with my friend Joanna, and we were saying it had been a really rainy day the other day, and I was stuck in this hotel room with nothing but like a torrential rainstorm to look at, and I was feeling so depressed, and it occurred to me, because the bus was gone and I couldn't get my guitar. If I could only get my guitar, I could turn this into something.
Right.
And that's what I've done. I came from a broken home. I, like most songwriters I know, and really most people, had my share of stuff that was tough to go through.
Right.
And I always used music, and I figured out pretty early on that was the thing that could save me. And so I know music it's not like curing cancer, and it's not like any huge noble deed, but I do feel that there's something inherently good, and that I'm not just wasting my time or doing something purely for the sake of vanity or my ego. It does feel like it's something real that I'm giving to the world, and maybe I'm just making myself feel better, but I tell myself that.
Speaking of vanity and giving something back, I see that you're very active on Twitter. Is that something that, the whole social media thing and the change in this industry, is that something that's important to you, and responding to people that tweet you directly, the band?
I found that I'm able to use Twitter in a way that I could never use Facebook or MySpace back in the day, or the forum on our website even, which is a nice forum. And I've gone on there a few times, and I have every intention of trying to answer the questions that people post on there.
Right.
But it's the interfaces are too much for me. They all have their drawbacks.
You didn't go to MIT, and you don't want to.
Yeah. Or just that feeling of I don't want to let people down. And if there tends to be a lot of I really want to propose to my girlfriend at this show. Can you help me do that? Or I need you to do this. And as much as I love our fans that I have interacted with, it's too overwhelming for me.
Sure.
In a way that Twitter isn't. I can just get on Twitter, and if something jumps out at me, I'll respond to it. But I don't feel like if I ignore something, anybody's going to go crazy. I understand. And the short little bursts of creativity, I like that.
Yeah.
But I really do like being able to hear what people are thinking. Like, we recently had a couple of shows where people had complained that it was too loud. And so now we've got our sound guy working a dB meter during sound check and during the gig, and just to make sure that the fans aren't, getting their hearing blown out. Just little stuff like that. And if there's something that I can do, to help where it doesn't feel like it's getting to be all about like that, I'd love to help people get engaged, or there's the charity stuff that we wind up doing, and I don't mind that. I like Twitter.
Cool. Thank you, and I'm sure your fans thank you too. The Grand Theater Volume 2 comes out in July, so is there going to be another big tour cycle? And I mean, you're probably always on the road, right?
We've been on the road. We've covered every major market in the U.S. In the first third of this year. And then we're going to do sporadic stuff through the fall, and I imagine we're going to start up again in January of next year, really hitting the road we'll always be on the road. We're a live band, and
Yeah.
we got to feed our kids. You know.
Yeah, totally. What are you listening to when you're on the road? Or is there anything that's caught your ear that you want to tell people
Oh
about?
my God. There's a band from Murfreesboro, Tennessee called Those Darlings. And it's 3 girls up front and a guy drummer. And they have a new record that just came out that is insane in how
Really?
good it is. And the record before had been really good, which is why we'd asked them to open for us on a 3-week tour last month. And they killed it every night. They
Really?
would kill it, and in a way that, like, you know, we've had some really great opening bands. Hayes Carl went out,
Yeah.
David Wax Museum. We've got Teddy Thompson right now.
Yeah.
But man, those Darlings, there's something about, you know, 21, 25-year-old, 26-year-old girls out there playing like Ramones-y punk rock.
Wow.
And just the intensity of their act combined with really great songs. You know, mainly written, I think, by their lead singer, who's 21 years old, and they started the band when she was 17. Man, I think that there's no way a year from now they're opening up for us. How good their new record is and the amount of buzz they've got. They're out right now with Black Joe Lewis.
Wow.
So that's a great band. I really love Nicole Atkins' new record, Mondo
Yeah,
Amore.
I do too. Yeah, we were talking about bands that I saw in Austin, and I randomly bumped into Nicole, and I love that record too. Yeah.
Did you see her Paste show? Everybody said it was like through the roof.
I didn't see her Pace show. No, I saw. Well, she had played for us like a week and a half before, and then I was just in. I can't even remember the name of the bar, and there she was, and
yeah.
it was just great record. And the new band is just so tight. And Irina, I think, is the name of her guitar player. She's just incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's been great.
So you're going to tour the new record, and then is there plans to start writing another record, or do you even think about that yet?
I've got a solo record
Oh,
in
wow.
the chute. I mean, the songs
Yeah.
for it. I haven't figured out, you know, the label producer or anything like that.
Yeah.
I've been co-writing with some people, notably Roseanne Cash and I've been writing together.
Wow.
Which she's so great. And we've got one that we just wrote that's a duet that we actually recorded a demo of. And after we recorded it, we looked at each other and went, oh my God, our voices sound so good together. So I'm sure you know what, I'm not sure, but I'm hopeful that that'll appear on either and or both of our albums that we're making.
Cool.
And yeah, I like to keep busy, you know.
Yeah,
The guys in my band, I think they relish the times when I do solo records because it
Right.
gives them, you know, maybe a year where they're not as busy.
Right.
And they all have, you know, wives that work and they don't have the pressure to necessarily be the sole breadwinner, which I am for my family. But I'm like a shark. I can't stop swimming or I'll die.
Right. Well, thank you, actually, for being that shark and for swimming, and thanks for so many great records and so many great songs over the years, and continued success, man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Ira. And it's a big deal to us to come back to Canada. So we're gonna come as much as we can.
Great.
And I'm sorry because it's not always easy, and we haven't always made it the priority we should. But we have some great friends up here, and people are so much nicer than they tend to be in America and, you know, the other North America.
It's just colder here. That's why we have to huddle around and be nice to people.
It's colder and further apart, but
There you go.
we'll continue to make it happen.
Great. Thanks so much, man. Really
Thanks a
appreciate
lot.
it. Cheers.
Explore Music wears English Laundry apparel.